Chapter 41, New Quest. The building suddenly shook. Noises of monsters appeared from the yard. Is that? Felix gulped. Yeah, there are more shadow summons. Neo helped Felix stand. Looks like the first student to target us is a shadow user. They stood at the edge of the broken wall. Felix covered his face with as if he wanted to cry. The yard was filled with shadow monsters. The ones with the bug shape were eating the building's foundation to bury the dormitory along with Neo, Arthur, and Felix. Chapter 42, Might of the Protagonist. Neo jumped down from the second floor. He didn't need to use Ocean's Embrace for such heights. A shadow centipede was crushed under his feet. Before it healed, other shadow summons pounced on him. Arcs of lightning bolts descended and swatted the monsters away. Neo entered the group of monsters. Felix and Arthur came down after him. What's the plan this time? Arthur shouted over the noises of monsters. Look for the shadow summoner. Neo swung his sword to crush the shadow mantis. Behind him, Arthur and Felix split up for the search. Neo did not use Ocean's Embrace or Necrotic Touch. He had to conserve divine energy and he would face a worse situation when he entered Underworld. This was his chance to train. He grabbed the head of a shadow monster and smashed it into the ground. While he fought, Arthur shouted, I can't find the summoner. What should we do? Neo swung his sword in a wide arc to create a room for himself. The monsters backed away. There are too many of them. I can't use my death affinity to locate the shadow summoner. His affinity warned him of dangers and allowed him to detect the bloodlust. However, it was useless in current situation. Can you do something about the monsters? Neo questioned. There was no answer. Neo, being swarmed by shadow monsters from all sides, could not see Arthur or Felix's condition. He doubted those two could find each other either. I can. Arthur shouted after a while. But it's dangerous. Felix and you will be hit too. I can handle it. What about Felix? Don't worry about me. Do it. Felix's answer brought a frown on Neo's face. But he didn't delve on it. Okay. Cover me for a minute. Arthur created a hand symbol and swiftly chanted a spell. Sparks of lightning leaked from his body. While he was defenseless, they monsters tried to attack him only to be stopped by Neo, who rushed to buy time for Arthur. The air prickled. Neo's hair on the nape stood. He knew Arthur was using a powerful attack. The shadow monsters understood the same. They went feral and pounced on them without caring about their own safety. Neo used Ocean's Embrace. He put his body on the line to protect Arthur. Soon Arthur spoke. I'm done. Get away from me. His body was coated in golden lightning. It was bright enough to force Neo to wince. Thunderburst, Arthur muttered. The lightning covering his body went berserk. Giant bolts of lightning flew out without rhyme and rhythm. The thundering orchestra continued for a few seconds. When it stopped, only the charred ground and a burnt smell were left. Arthur fell to his knee. His clothes were soaked in sweat and he was panting badly. I can't. Huff. Huff. Fight for a few. Huff. Minutes. The shadow monsters were obliterated. Nonetheless, Neo could see shadows squirming on the ground. They were recovering. He had to be quick. Neo focused on his senses. He scanned the surroundings. Bloodlust. His gaze went to the tree at the end of area out of Arthur's last attack range. The shadow of the tree suddenly moved. It looked like a normal shadow. But Neo could see the thick bloodlust radiating from it with his eyes closed. A smile appeared on his face. Suddenly, the shadow started to run. It knew it was caught. It's him. Go. Arthur urged Neo. Neo picked a stone from the ground, checked its weight and threw it. The shadow tried to dodge only to tumble after a misstep. Before it could stand back, Neo was next to it. He grabbed the shadow's neck. Let's look at our friend's face. He used a weakened necrotic touch. Not strong enough to kill him but make him feel the worst pain of his life. The shadow let go of the spell with the scream. Its real appearance was revealed to be a boy with sunken cheek, black hair and black eyes. The boy grinned. Ha ha ha. You've lost. Neo realized something was wrong and looked back. Arthur was walking towards him, but Felix was missing. That's right. We've taken your friend hostage. The boy laughed. Don't try to fight me if you value your friend's life. Neo frowned. It wasn't Felix who said he could block Arthur's attack. I should have understood it sooner. Arthur's face hardened when he found out what was happening. Go search the area. His friends or maybe Felix might be nearby. I'll try to get information out of him. Arthur nodded at Neo's words. His muscles were sore and he could hardly stand straight. But there was no time to complain. Death happened every year during the tournament. If they were late, they might never see Felix again. Arthur left. The boy laughed when he saw the despair-filled expression on Arthur's face. He looked Neo in the eye. It's no use. We've already delivered your friend to the Zeus Clan. Neo spoke calmly. The boy, Nathan, frowned at his composure. You think I'm joking? Your friend will die if you don't listen to me. Yeah? I don't care. Felix was weak, but not useless. The one thing he was best at was survival. Even cockroaches could learn from him. He got kidnapped and it's his responsibility to get away, Neo said. It was a good thing he sent Arthur away on a useless errand. He wouldn't have liked Neo's words. Why you are lying? Want a proof? Neo increased the intensity of necrotic touch. The boy grunted and bit his lips in order to suppress the screams threatening to overflow. I don't care if you or that guy dies. Nathan tried to use his shadow summons only to find himself unable to concentrate due to the pain. What do you want? Why are you doing this to me? He started to scream as if Neo had done something wrong to him. It confused Neo. Wasn't he the one who came to kill them? Why was he blaming him when he received the same treatment? Nevertheless, the question was a waste of time. There was another reason why Neo wanted to talk to Nathan alone. Chapter 43, Order. There was another reason why Neo wanted to talk to Nathan alone. Give me your shadow spell. What? Nathan's glare was useless thanks to his teary eyes. You should know no family shares their spell to the outsiders. I won't give it to you. I'd rather die. Nathan shivered, not from the pain, but from the thought of what would his family to do him if he leaked the spell. Neo could take him time increasing the pain to force the spell out of Nathan. However, he didn't like torturing people and he had a faster method. You'd rather die? Neo's smile sent chills down Nathan's spine. The temperature plummeted. Nathan's teeth clattered and he sensed something was wrong. He looked below. The darkness beneath Neo's feet moved. It wasn't a shadow. Nathan would have detected it with his shadow affinity if it was the darkness element. Why can you use that accursed power? The darkness stretched. What are you going to do to me? Nothing much, Neo answered. But if you would rather die, I hope you will let me eat you. Nathan was unable to retort. He felt true fear for the first time in his life. As someone who delved into a dark-type element, he knew what being devoured by darkness meant. You wouldn't dare. The teachers won't let you. They don't care if students die. Why would they care if I consume a soon-to-be-dead participant? Of course, if you were from a great god clan, they might have protected you. But I don't think you are. Nathan tried to get away from Neo's grip. However, the pain made him unable to put strength into his limbs. He soiled his clothes. Talk quickly. I don't have time to waste on you. Neo's cold words made Nathan lose all hope. He stopped struggling and opened his mouth. I have a Whisper-ranked Shadow Insect Summon spell and an Echo-ranked Shadow Knight Summon spell. It's... Neo listened to the explanation carefully. After memorizing the details, he tried to use the spell. He failed miserably. He couldn't sense his shadow affinity at all. I can't trigger the spell since I haven't awakened my shadow affinity yet. TSK, I was hoping to use the shadow summons to help me in the battles. When Nathan saw Neo standing silently, he spoke. It's not a fake spell. I swear if you give it to a shadow user they will be able to use the shadow insect summon spell immediately. The shadow knight summon spell might need a bit of training. What about the other spell? Neo interrupted. You kidnapped Felix right under our nose. It was my friend who did, RGH. The death mark on Nathan's neck flared. It was me. It was me. So, stop. Nathan panted. He explained. The spell, Shadow Snare, was a whisper-ranked spell. When it hit the target, they were teleported to a pre-marked location. Since it was the lowest-ranked spell, the target could resist the teleportation. Why was Felix teleported if the spell can be stopped? You need to have some amount of strength to resist. How can he, the weakest demigod in the history, do that? Neo clicked his tongue. Nathan and his friend targeted the weakest link of their group. Can you let me go? Nathan asked. I answered all of your questions. Neo shook his head. I need you to use your spells and help us rescue Felix. You said you didn't care about your friend. Neo didn't care. But Arthur would definitely want to save Felix. And the Zeus Clan would attack Neo because he took the first rank token. One way or another, he was bound to clash with them. It was better to go with Arthur. When they finished the discussion, Arthur returned. He had a pale face. I can't find Felix or anyone else. I see. Guess we will go meet the Zeus Clan members and get him back. It's them. Arthur couldn't believe Neo. They are students like us. How can do to these things? Morrigan was not the type to resort to cheap tricks. The kidnapping must have been the plan of someone else from Zeus Clan. Bring that question up when we meet them. Neo patted Arthur's shoulder. Let's go. He turned to Nathan. Lead the way. Arthur was confused. Before he could question, Neo answered. He had a change of heart and decided to join our side. Nathan wanted to retort, but the slight pain from the death mark made him shut up. He had no choice but to follow their orders. Eldergulin Valley. Northwest region of designated area for the ranking tournament. What are you doing? Morrigan stared at the student, Daniel, bowing to her. Her gaze shifted to Felix, who was tied behind him. I've brought gift for the Zeus Clan. Daniel let out a crafty smile. My friends and I were deeply offended when a certain someone dared to take the rightful throne from the genius of Montaigne family. We decided something must be done. Thus, we, the devotee of the mighty Zeus Clan, fought them valiantly and captured a traitor following that wretched devil. With this trash bastard on our hand, we can easily defeat those losers who dare to covet the throne of the ruler. Some of the Zeus Clan members cringed at his words. However, Daniel continued to smile, proud of his achievement. This was the moment of his life. If he could get in their good graces, he would never have to worry about anything. Morrigan stepped forward. Her body disappeared and a faint noise of thunderbolts sounded before she reappeared before Daniel. Raise your head, she said. Daniel was dazed when he laid his eyes on her. Although he heard about the beauty of the Montaigne family's genius, he felt the rumors underplayed her elegance. The faint noise of thunderbolt echoed again. A blow hit Daniel in the chest and he was smashed into the tree behind him. The burnt smell and Daniel's blood-soaked coughs chilled Felix's heart. Chapter 44, Confidence or Overconfidence. Felix was bewildered. Why was she attacking her own people? He tried his best to understand the situation in order to escape, or survive at least. Morrigan approached Daniel. Why did you attack me? I was following your orders. My orders. While her voice was calm, the faint thunderbolt noise reverberated and another invisible attack landed on Daniel. There was no time to dodge. He felt as if he was about to die. I've made my words clear. Do not touch Neo Hargraves. He would die by my hands. Lies. I was clearly told by. Before he could complete his words, a sword pierced his neck. He gagged on his blood. No need to waste your time on idiots like him, Lucas said. He wiped the blood from his sword before returning it to the sheath. Why did you kill him? Morrigan asked. I relayed your words to everyone in the tournament and he still did what he wanted. We can't let them make mockery of our clan. Morrigan stared at his sly grin. It had to him who ordered Daniel to kidnap Felix behind her back. He killed Daniel to hide the proof. I don't remember asking you to intervene, she said and blasted him with a much stronger attack. Lucas was hit, unable to do anything. He crashed into a rock. I apologize. He smiled as he stood up. Watching him irritated Morrigan. She turned to Felix. Felix spoke before she could say anything. Wait. I can help you guys. Don't kill me. His expression mirrored his mental state. These Zeus Clan lunatics. They killed a student for no reason. Fuck. I was following Arthur because he was strong. If I knew I would get involved in this mess, I wouldn't have approached him. Felix, a weakling, was confident in his ability to assess people's strength at a glance. He followed Arthur because he was strong. Only monstrous geniuses like Morgan, Leonora, and Mars could defeat Arthur. Felix planned to hug Arthur's thigh and reach a higher rank with his help. But, damn it. I don't need your help, Morgan said. You do. You definitely do. Felix shouted before she could refuse him again. Ask your siblings, Arthur is strong. Among those who harassed Felix and Arthur were Zeus Clan members. Arthur only defended against their attacks. It was unthinkable for a no-name demigod to be able to stop geniuses like them easily. The Zeus Clan members reacted. Don't lie. We didn't go all out. Zoe was interrupted by Morrigan. Is he stronger than you? Morrigan asked. No. Are you sure? Zoe bit her lips before she answered. I couldn't get a proper grasp on his strength. But I'm sure I'm stronger. I hope you didn't lie. Zoe and a few others shivered. Morrigan ignored them and looked at Felix. As you can see, we don't need your help. Now, please. Don't be so hasty. Lucas intervened with a smile. He held the wound to stop the bleeding. We might not need him. But there is no harm in taking precautions. Yes, that's right. I will help you guys. There is no need to eliminate me. I'm not your enemy. Felix did not feel ashamed of backstabbing Arthur and Neo. He was just trying to survive. Morrigan frowned. She stared at Felix and Lucas. Do whatever you want. But don't touch Neo Hargraves. Elderglen Valley. Northwest region of designated area for the ranking tournament. Neo, Arthur, and Nathan were at top of a mountain with a steep cliff. They chose this place for teleportation on Neo's advice. Why here? Arthur asked. Does fighting on a mountain top give you a boost? Or are you planning on preparing traps? Something like that. The three descended down the mountain after Nathan was done. What are we going to do? I don't think it's a good idea for you two, us three to barge into their base, Nathan questioned. Arthur, curious, followed Nathan's gaze and turned to Neo. He knew Neo was weak physically. It was easy to notice. However, Neo's divine energy purity was high and it allowed him to use strong spells. Thanks to it and Neo's perfect directions during the previous battle, Arthur trusted him to have a plan. Have you seen the members of Zeus Clan? Neo asked Arthur while they followed the mountain trail. Yes. I saw them in the cafeteria. Can you defeat them? I can. Easily. His swift and confident words shocked Nathan. The 10 members of Zeus Clan participating in the tournament were geniuses among geniuses. They belonged to the top 0.1%. He could defeat those high and might existences. Why don't you say your kingly name is real and you are great sky god, Zeus, son? Nathan scoffed. What if you have to fight all at once? Neo questioned. That. I can't guarantee I will win. Arthur pursed his lips. Actually, I take my words back. I am stronger than them, but there is one I can't see myself winning against. Who is it? Morrigan de Montaigne. That's her name, I think. Neo went silent after hearing his words. I will deal with her, Neo said. Take care of others while you rescue Felix. I can try, but are you sure? She has a lightning seed. I don't think we have another choice. They reached the mountain's base and entered the jungle. Nathan couldn't contain his curiosity anymore. What is a lightning seed? It's a booster of sorts. Arthur tried to put his thoughts into words. It gives a major raise to overall abilities. At her mastery level, she should be able to imbue her normal attacks with lightning. His vast knowledge shocked Nathan. Although he wanted to believe Arthur was lying, there was undeniable certainty behind his words. Do you Have that lightning seed? No. It's too draining to use. Neo could only sigh inaudibly. Lightning seed was one of the secret techniques of Montaigne family. If they knew Arthur was dissing it and calling it inefficient, they might have lost their sanity. It didn't take them long to reach the Zeus Clan base. We are here, Nathan said. Chapter 45, Aura Clash. Okay, Neo nodded. Follow the plan. A plan. Suddenly, the Crackled and Morrigan appeared next to them. You think your plan, whatever it might be, has a chance to work? Arthur reacted. He fired a small lightning bolt. Just as it was about to hit, Morrigan disappeared and reappeared at another place. The other Zeus Clan members revealed themselves. They surrounded Neo, Arthur, and Nathan. They were waiting for us, Neo thought. Arthur prepared his next attack. Before he could do anything, Neo stopped him. Let me talk first. He looked at Morrigan and spoke. We are not here to fight. Our friend has been kidnapped by some unscrupulous people. We are searching for him. Have you seen him anywhere? Maybe, maybe not. Why should I tell you? Fair enough. Neo smiled when she answered back with his words. Suddenly, Zoe, a member of Zeus Clan, stepped forward. Hey. Although she tried to hide it, she looked anxious as if she wanted to prove herself. Speak with your heads down. You are talking to the people of Zeus Clan. She let her aura slip out. The air crackled and the pressure descended on Neo and Arthur. She grinned when she saw Arthur's pale complexion. Suddenly, an aura heavier than hers appeared. It covered the area like thick blanket. Zoe felt as if she couldn't breathe. She stared at Neo, the source of the aura, with wide eyes. What is that aura? The others realized something was wrong. They thought Neo was stupid to choose rank 1 token. However, his dense aura of death shocked everyone. It was almost tangible. Arthur and Morrigan, while not bewildered, were still surprised. The 9 Zeus Clan members, except Morrigan, released their auras. Their combined presence bore down on Neo. Their expressions turned into an ugly grimace. Neo, even if only for a moment, could resist them alone. You fucking bastard. They could not let such a shameful situation be broadcasted to their families and the world. Their auras turned wild. The massive presences charged at Neo's aura and tried to subdue it in one go. Neo's sphere of presence shrunk. Just as he was about to lose completely, he, for the first time, released his aura of darkness. Instantly, his aura exploded and the Zeus Clan member's aura was pushed back. The clash shook the trees and the shockwaves rippled as if a typhoon arrived. I'll ask again, Neo said. Have you seen my friend? Yeah, and we killed him. Zoe, unable to bear the defeat, charged. Her attack was interrupted by Arthur. Do it! He shouted. Suddenly, the divine energy in the air moved. They noticed Nathan at its source. Shadow Snare. The spell required a long time to cast. It should have been impossible to trigger it in front of the enemy. However, due to the aura clash with Neo, they unconsciously ignored the weak presence of Nathan. They were distracted and he successfully triggered the spell right under their noses. The shadows below Neo and Morrigan surged. They climbed up their bodies. How about we settled this somewhere else? Neo asked. Fine. Morrigan didn't interrupt the teleportation. There was no need to be cautious. Neo's aura surprised her, but aura and actual strength were not always linked. Anyone could tell Neo was weak by looking at his bruises and wounds from the battle against Nathan's shadow summons. The two appeared over a tall cliff. Morrigan scanned the surroundings. You should use the traps you've prepared. There aren't any. Neo held his sword and dashed at her. Arthur looked at the Zeus Clan members with a vigilant gaze. He covered Nathan behind himself. They prepared for battle until Lucas suddenly laughed. He held his stomach. Ha 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 ha, crazy idiots, did your plan involve splitting us off from Morrigan? Did you think you could defeat her if she was alone? Since the remaining 9 members were not teleported, it was clear Neo and Arthur planned to deal with Morrigan first. The two probably thought it was better to eliminate the strongest opponent before dealing with others. The Zeus Clan members stared at Arthur with mockery and pity. I will explain it to you in layman terms since you aren't from God clans. Lucas smiled. The Zeus Clan is divided into 3 families. Montaigne family, Valmont family and Mistraven family. Every family sends 4 to 7 children to academy every year. These children are cream of the crop of their batch. But this year was different. Morrigan single-handedly defeated all participants from the Montaigne family. She left her opponents in a miserable state. They couldn't even join the academy anymore. This is why she is the only one from Montaigne family this year. Even all 9 of us together aren't her match. There is no way you and your friend can defeat her. Arthur grimaced when he heard Lucas. But he could do nothing except believe Neo. Lightning crackled around Arthur. Are you seriously trying to fight us alone? Lucas scoffed. Yes. Arthur pointed his finger at Lucas and fired a lightning bolt. The lightning bolt was about to hit Lucas when it changed its path and flew towards Zoe. Arthur frowned. He lost control of the spell. Zoe absorbed the lightning bolt. She smirked. I can eat suck weak lightning easily. Cough. Cough. She puked blood. Her eyes widened in horror when she saw her blood-stained hands. Are you stupid? Arthur looked down at her. Even if you can overpower my lightning, absorbing others' divine energy is no different from eating poison. Why you? While his words were true, Zoe never encountered a similar situation. The absorption would harm her only when the opponent was far stronger than her. The faces of Zeus Clan members hardened. Zoe, while weakest in the group, could fight against them on equal footing, and sometimes even win. Her strength was not too far from everyone else. Before they could react to the horrible realization, Arthur activated another spell. Banshee scream. His voice tore through their eardrums and stunted them. Their vision shook. The noise of the spell continued to echo. They felt the ground spin beneath them. Focus. He has disappeared. Lucas shouted while he pressed his bleeding ears. He took out the shield and the sword. No matter where he looked, he couldn't find Arthur. Invisibility? It was an advanced technique of air element. Lightning, sound, air. He can use 3 elements. How? There is no way he is a no-name demigod. Lucas commanded. Use your senses to search for divine energy activation. He will sneak attack anytime. Arc. Zoe screamed. She held her bleeding torso. Lucas ran to her and checked her injuries. A physical wound. Judging from the size, it was made with a dagger. Hiding and attacking. This isn't how a mage fights. Lucas felt his common sense being challenged. Why could Arthur, an assassin, use 3 elements perfectly? He was curious, afraid, and bewildered. While he wasted his time dazed, another member was attacked. But just when Arthur cut Harrison's tendons, he received a sword slash to his chest. I've got him. Harrison shouted. Arthur jumped back with a pained face. The blood dripping from his wound revealed his location. It made his invisibility useless. I took 2 of them out in a surprise attack. It's good enough. He cancelled the invisibility spell and used a lightning flare spell. The flash blinded the group. Lucas didn't make the previous mistake. He didn't wait. Closing his eyes, he rushed towards Arthur and attacked. He couldn't let Arthur take the initiative. Their swords clashed in a shockwave. Sword? Arthur had a sword? Lucas opened his eyes as soon as he could see again. Damn it. A shadow knight stood in front of him. Arthur had, somehow, disappeared. Chapter 46. Who do you think will win? It didn't take long for Lucas to subdue the shadow knight. Arthur never attacked him during that time, even though it was a perfect opportunity. Where is the shadow summoner? Lucas felt something was wrong. Could it be possible for Arthur to use the invisibility on the shadow summoner? If that's true, it has to be a resonance, or maybe a reverberation ranked spell. How could Arthur have a reverberation ranked spell? Normal demigods would never see in it their lifetime. Lucas bit his lips, unable to understand the situation, when he heard Orion's shout. Snap out of it, Lucas. Don't just stand stupidly. You are our leader after Morrigan disappeared. Give us orders. Lucas nodded. He scanned the area while the others covered him from all sides. They prepared for a sneak attack from Arthur or Nathan. Time passed. Nothing happened. Suddenly, Lucas came to a realization. Damn it. He went to rescue his friend. Dozens of shadow monsters sprang up from the ground before Lucas and others rushed to Felix's location. The monsters blocked their path. They are stalling for time. Ignore them. When they reached their destination, they found it empty. The area should have been locked with Morrigan's 8-trigram lightning prison spell. After she got teleported, she was too far and couldn't maintain the prison. TCH, they got lucky. Who would have known Morrigan's whim would cost us this way? Lucas didn't know all of this was planned by Neo. From choosing a faraway place for teleportation to cancel the prison spell, to ordering Arthur to fight everyone alone as Neo knew about his invisibility, to... Well, it doesn't matter. Felix should know what is good for him. Felix had no choice but to betray his friends. Lucas was sure of it. Arthur, Felix and Nathan ran through the jungle. They continued to move without looking back. Hey, let's take a break, Felix said while panting. His endurance was at rock bottom after suffering at the hand of Zeus Clan members. It didn't help the last time he ate was over a day ago. He was hungry, hurt, and on a run from Zeus Clan. You don't look good. Arthur passed him fruits. He found them after foraging in the forest. Felix ate like a starved wolf. He felt a heavenly taste burst into his mouth when he took a bit from the ripened mango. Thanks. They continued to move away from the Zeus Clan's base after the rest. On the way, Felix noticed Nathan staring at him. What? What about the guy who kidnapped you? He is dead. How did he die? The Zeus Clan participant, Lucas de Valemont, attacked him when he said the Zeus Clan ordered the kidnapping. But he was the one who... Nathan sighed and didn't speak further. There was nothing he could do even if it was unfair. He continued to run with a gloomy face. They had been on the run for a few hours when Arthur stopped. He frowned. Why aren't they coming after us? I thought they would want to get revenge. They are probably waiting for me to backstab you. Felix's answer made Arthur go wide-eyed. He shrugged. They are members of the Great God Clan and I'm a wastrel of the weakest God Clan. If I don't do what they told me to, they'll make my life hell after the competition ends. What? Arthur suddenly took a step back. Are you going to betray me? Watching the guy who fought several Zeus Clan members without flinching, afraid, made Felix chuckle. He shook his head. Of course not. My life is already hell. They can't make it worse than it already is. Felix might have betrayed Arthur before. But, after seeing his strength with his own eyes, he changed his plans. And Felix took out rank tokens from his pocket. They don't have time to come after us if they want to receive a rank. Arthur could help but exclaim. Why do you have so many rank tokens? I stole them when they weren't paying attention. Felix grinned. Student Council Office. Demigod Academy. Amelia stared at the broadcast with a clenched fist. She didn't notice it, her nails digging into her palms. Percival, who sat next to her, stared at her through the side eye while drinking coffee. This year's ranking tournament is quite different, isn't it? He continued. The Zeus Clan was made a complete fool and the Poseidon Clan isn't trying to get a high rank. The other clans are moving quietly because they are worried about Zeus Clan's warning. Out of all tournaments, this year's might be the least brutal one. But isn't that wrong? I find this year's tournament the most exciting. He grinned. The wastrel of Aphrodite Clan played the Zeus Clan for a fool. An unknown demigod with the family name of Kingsley appeared. Surprisingly, he might be on par with the geniuses of this generation. And finally him. Neo was displayed in the broadcast. The demigod involved in the controversy of Mermaid Country, the younger brother of Hargraves Corporation CEO, and a crazy bastard who is trying to fight the strongest genius alone. Amelia didn't answer. She didn't notice him talking. Her focus was directed at the screen displaying Neo's battle against Morrigan. Are you worried about him? Amelia's head snapped towards him. Why yes, I guess. He tried to help Mother, so I'd rather not see him lose. According to what she told Percival, Neo tried to save her mother. He had to escape the country with Amelia after he failed, and the rebels placed a bounty on him to catch him. Percival slid the curtains. He could see the students outside staring at the broadcast with bated breath. Everyone knew the genius of Morrigan family. There was no way Neo could win. That's what made the battle exciting. They couldn't wait to see why he was so confident. Quite a few students placed bets on the possible victor and loser. "Who do you think will win?" Amelia asked. Percival was the student council president and the ruler of second year. She believed he could predict the result with his extensive battle experience. "If he is going to do what I think he will, he might win." But he stared at her. "He will die." His answer made Amelia concerned and relieved. "Because? Is that so?" Neo was immortal. Chapter 47, The Winning Move. Orbs of lightning floated behind Morrigan. Electrical discharge shot out of them. Neo used the ocean's embrace before the attack hit him. His senses flared. He dodged the ones he could dodge and twisted his body to avoid the fatal hits. A grunt escaped his lips. Morrigan frowned when she saw him relatively unharmed. "How are you standing?" The attack should have been enough to deal with him. Neo's defense couldn't be credited to the spell alone. "Your mana purity is higher than mine," she said. "That's why you are so sturdy." Her frown worsened. Even if his purity was high, his total divine energy was nothing compared to her. She could tire him out Neo to defeat him. However, it wasn't her style. There is no shield that won't break. The faint noise of a thunderbolt reverberated. Morrigan disappeared. Neo barely had time to raise the sword. A heavy blow struck his blade. He saw Morrigan's figure for a split second before she disappeared again and the air crackled. Neo twisted his hand to block the attack coming from behind. The air crackled again. His senses calmed down. Morrigan appeared far from his location. She stared at him with a tight frown. She is irritated, Neo thought bitterly. I guess she hates how her attacks failed twice. The simple blows rattled his bones and his muscles were nearly torn apart. He couldn't help but feel he was royally fucked. How high is her grade? Grade 2 or grade 1? Morrigan took a step. She appeared before him in an instant and brought her sword down. Neo swung his blade. The clash created shockwaves. Morrigan's eyes glowed. The world slowed down for her, and she continued to move at normal pace. Neo responded to her attack in slow motion. He let the non-lethal attacks land on the ocean's embrace while he diverted her strong attacks by a hairbreadth. He is ignoring the feints, Morrigan thought. It was as if Neo knew which attack would take him out of the fight and he dodged only those. His death affinity was working wonders, not that Morrigan knew. Sparks flew in the air. From a bystander point of view, their sword clashed hundreds of times in a few seconds. Cuts appeared on Neo's body and blood began to pool beneath his feet. It was wrong. He wasn't going down as easily as she had thought. Morrigan didn't want to use spells, not against a weaker opponent. It would sully her name. But that's it. I'm done holding back, Morrigan said. She kicked Neo in the stomach. The blow, swift, strong, and precise, knocked air out his lungs and threw him back. His body rolled in the dirt. He stabbed the sword into the ground to stop himself. Suddenly, he twisted his head and a lightning spear whizzed past his cheek. The attack flew behind him before it exploded. Lightning shrapnel dug into Neo's back. He ignored the pain and made a hand sign. Darkness. The shadows beneath his feet slithered. Heed my call. They shot forward, coiling and twisting like snakes. Black lines appeared on the ground. They circled Morrigan and suddenly flew out and formed a dome. Neo changed his hand signs as soon as Morrigan was captured inside the darkness domain. Devour. The dome of darkness shrunk rapidly. In midst of his attack, Neo heard a fleeting whisper. Render. Cracks appeared on the dome of darkness and golden light slipped out. A beat later, the dome exploded. The world was dyed in a golden flash. Morrigan stepped out the crumbling dome. She couldn't find Neo and noticed several domes of darkness on the cliff. Trying to hide now? She raised her foot. Sparks of lightning gathered under her soul. The golden lightning continued to shrink and compress until Morrigan stomped. It went underground. But instead of dispersing, the lightning surged again and returned to the surface. The ground split apart. Continuous thunder echoed. The random discharge of lightning from the ground destroyed multiple domes of darkness at once. Neo's figure, hidden inside the dome near the cliff's edge, was revealed. "Let's end this," she said. Morrigan dashed towards him. Just when Neo tried to block her, Morrigan used physical reinforcement spell. Her speed and strength improved drastically. She changed the sword path midway. Neo couldn't react on time. The blade stabbed into his stomach. Morrigan swung the sword to the side and slashed it out of his waist. Irk! Neo bit his lips. Blood gushed out from his injury. Ocean's embrace could barely provide him any defense against her. The difference in their stats was too vast. Neo tried to use necrotic touch on her, only for her to dodge easily. She rammed the blade into his forearm. "What is that disgusting spell?" Morrigan froze. She couldn't pull out her sword from Neo's forearm. It was stuck between the gap of his bones. Was it on purpose? She looked up at Neo's face. "You have a defensive spell." His words brought an ominous premonition. "Use it and..." She suddenly noticed they were on the cliff's edge. "Hey! Try not to die." Neo used his other hand to bring her in a tight hug and he stepped back. His feet landed on empty air. They fell off the cliff before Morrigan could do anything. I feel like shit." Neo tried to stand. His body wouldn't listen to him. He raised his head and looked around. Green trees, red dirt, and a corpse. Clarity returned to his mind. The red dirt was his blood soaked into the mud. He heard a groan. The corpse moved. Morrigan stood up with a stagger. Her figure was covered in blood. Her right hand was not facing at the correct direction, and she glared at him with intense hatred. She took a step towards him. It was slow and painful. Neo stood up with a grunt and got ready to fight. The sword stabbed into his arm fell off somewhere during the fall and blood continued to flow out of the injury on his stomach. Both of them had a foot in grave. Neo punched towards Morrigan's head. Despite being heavily injured and out of divine energy, she dodged and hit his chin with an uppercut. Neo stumbled. His vision spun and he fell to his knees. She kicked him in the stomach. Neo grabbed her foot before she could hit his injury again and wrestled her into a hold. Chapter 48, End of the Brawl. A clear snap resounded. Neo looked at Morrigan's broken leg with wide eyes. Her injuries must have been bad if the bone broke with a slight pull. "You." She bit her lips. Just when Neo thought he won, his stomach burned. The feeling was the same as a hot knife, stabbed into his injury, being twisted. He looked down. Faint lightning sparks slithered around his injury. "This damned woman. She used lightning seed's energy when she stabbed me." Morrigan's divine energy, rampaging inside his body, wouldn't disperse unlike normal situations. She could kill him if the situation continued. Neo grunted. He wrung his blood dry to use divine energy. He touched her with necrotic touch. Morrigan, within his hold, could not dodge. She let out a subdued scream when the death mark appeared on her leg. At the same time, she used her divine energy to mess up Neo's inside. She glared at him. "Stop if you don't want to die. You first." Neo increased the intensity of necrotic touch. The two did not back down. To break the stalemate, Neo used the darkness. The shadows on the ground quivered. That was all. Neo, after losing too much blood, had only a bit of divine energy left, and he used it for necrotic touch. The appearance of darkness element surprised Morrigan. She let the control of her divine energy slip. Neo used the chance to increase the necrotic touch's intensity to maximum. He waited for her to retaliate. But nothing happened. Morrigan was knocked out. Neo let go of the hold and sprawled on the ground. He stared at the sky. "Ha ha ha, this is crazy." Neo won. Against the strongest demigod of his generation. He defeated Morrigan. He basked in the glory of victory until the reality slammed him down. His injuries hurt and he lost too much blood. I can cauterize the wound with necrotic touch, but he was in no condition to fight. If someone found him, they wouldn't hesitate to take him out. After all, Neo painted a target on his back when he chose the rank 1 token. I need to hide until I recover to a better state. He pushed his lead-like limbs and staggered to his feet. The injury on his stomach was not lethal, or maybe it was, and he couldn't think straight due to anemia. Neo was about to leave when his eyes wandered to Morrigan. She was alive. Anyone who found her would rescue her to curry favor with Zeus Clan. But there was no guarantee it would happen. It was possible for her to die of blood loss because no one found her. He covered his face, trying to think if he should do it or not. Damn it. He was fucked if she died. The Morrigan family would come after him. Not to mention, he would lose a powerful future ally. Hey, wake up. Neo hit her cheeks. There was no response. With no other choice, he carried her on his back. Fuck, she is heavy. Blood trickled from the corner of his lips. His eyes were bloodshot and his ears rang. Wasn't carrying a girl supposed to make him feel something positive? Why did he feel like shit? Neo did not know for how long he kept walking. It was night when he found a cave after he followed the cliff's base for hours. He entered the cave. The tunnel was long and there was no sign of a monster living in it. Neo placed Morrigan inside before he left. He retraced his steps and removed the tracks, brought some fruits, and took a few bushes to hide the cave's entrance. Morrigan was awake when he returned. He tossed her the apple and ate the other one. There is no need to fight. Both of us are out of divine energy and we lack blood to recover it anytime soon. I know you must have a breathing technique. But don't forget your leg is broken. There is no way you can fight anymore. She glared at him and used physical reinforcement spell. Her muscles tightened. They crushed the broken bones and sent jolts of pain across her leg. She canceled the spell and coughed blood. Her body went into seizure since she forcefully used divine energy. Neo waited for her to recover a bit. Eat. He gave her the apple she dropped. You can't recover if you don't eat. Morrigan's gaze alternated between his face and the apples. Tears welled in her eyes. She took the apple and nibbled on it silently. Neo was left frozen from shock. He couldn't believe the scene before his eyes. Morrigan, the future war empress, cried. Her sobs grew louder. Oh, are you okay? Shut up. Hick. Don't want to talk to you. Hick. She nibbled on the apple while her tears stained the ground. I was the stupid one. Hick. It tried to save him and what did I get in return? Hick. He almost killed me, she mumbled. What do you mean? I'll make your stomach explode if you try to talk to me again. She glared at him with red puffy eyes. Neo could feel the lingering energy from her lightning seed inside him. She wasn't joking. He decided to shut up. Morrigan continued to cry. She turned to him after she ate the apple. Her gaze was locked at the uneaten apple in his hand. You can have it. She ate the apple with small bites. You are stupid, she said after a long time. Morrigan stopped crying. Her eyes were swollen. Are you going to talk now? He asked. No, she stared at him. I don't want to talk to you. That was their last conversation of the day. Morrigan entered meditation to recover her divine energy. What did she mean she was helping me? He had an idea to what it was. Maybe. Chapter 49, I don't trust you. Maybe it's true. Morrigan repeatedly warned others to not touch Neo. Did she do that because she was worried Neo, a weak demigod, would die if hundreds of demigod attacked him at once? No, that's not possible. Morrigan wasn't so kind. But this injury. Neo traced the wound on his stomach. It nearly split his torso in half and somehow the injury wasn't lethal. The attack missed his vital points. If she didn't do this on purpose, it has to be a crazy coincidence. Neo found it hard to believe Morrigan would make a mistake like this. It had to be intentional. Damn it. Morrigan had to punish Neo. He insulted the Zeus clan by trying to take the first rank. She tried to find a way to punish him on the live broadcast while her true intentions were different. She didn't want to kill him. In return, Neo nearly ended her life. I'm just imagining nonsense. The wound could be a coincidence, or maybe she had other intentions. He shouldn't come to a conclusion without hearing her side. Neo turned away from Morrigan. He trained his darkness affinity to pass time. The shadows stretched and spread out. It was difficult to sustain the domain of darkness for a long period of time. The longer he maintained darkness, the harder it got to control. The shadows slithered and tried to devour him. Strange noises spoke to him. He cancelled the domain of darkness when he reached his limit. The darkness and the noises disappeared. Why are you using that element? Morrigan spoke to him. Her complexion improved. It seemed hours went by while he was immersed in training. I have an affinity for it. That's your only reason. Morrigan looked like she had a lot to say. Don't use it too much. She pursed her lips. When you devour others, the darkness devours you. Stop while you still can. Thank you for the advice. Neo had no intention of stopping. The two went silent. Before Neo could return to the training, Morrigan spoke. I'm hungry. Go, get me something to eat. Neo didn't move. I'm hurt because of you. Take responsibility. She stared at him with silent hate. Neo was about to tell her off when suddenly his stomach rumbled. He sighed. I lost my sword when I fell. Guess I'll go and search for it while looking for something to eat. He left the cave under Morrigan's watchful eyes. It was night. He went around collecting fruits from the trees. There was no clue about Obidus. I can't call it back since our connection isn't strong yet. He wanted to curse at himself. I lost a God Slayer weapon. Neo could only wait for the tournament to end to get his sword. While outside, Neo made sure to not leave tracks or engage in battles. His divine energy was far from sufficient. He stood in front of a tree. Can I recover the divine energy if I devour it? Neo used the darkness. The ground turned pitch black and the tree sunk into it at a slow pace. He could feel himself reaching his limit when he tried to eat something as big as a tree. It tasted like a dry bark. Wow, fuck. The tree didn't restore his stamina or divine energy. If anything, he felt more tired. His mental energy took a huge hit after he devoured a living being. Note to self, don't eat trees. Neo returned with the fruits he collected. He gave a few to Morrigan. She started meditation after eating her fill. Neo trained his darkness element. Their routines were simple. They would train and recover all day. Neo would leave at night to collect fruit and return before sunrise. He did it to reduce his chances of encountering students. After all, he was in no condition to fight. Consuming only fruits barely recovered any divine energy. Moreover, he did not sleep a wink. He couldn't trust his back to Morrigan. There was no guarantee she wouldn't try to take his rank token when he let his guard down. Similarly, Morrigan, wary of him, never slept. The two rarely talked. They only trained. Living inside the closed cave and being forced to sneak around at night was burdening Neo. His mental state was worsening. Neo had not seen the sun in days. He was slowly beginning to lose his sense of time. Every day it was the same dark cave, same dark night, and same dark forest. His physical condition took a turn for worse. Cough. Cough. He began to puke blood every few hours. While the wound on his stomach was not lethal, he had been moving around without receiving any medication. Morrigan was not any better. Her internal injuries were a lot worse than she let him know. As days went by, she started to have trouble breathing and a fever came over her. Hey, just sleep, he said to her. I don't trust you. She spoke with a barely audible voice. Her injuries worsened over time and she lost a lot of energy. Cough. Cough. Fair enough, Neo spoke. I don't trust you either. No matter how nice or kind she was, she would still want the first rank. Neo could not sleep in front of her and risk the reward he was about to get. During past days, he tried to find another cave or a hiding location. But he failed. Wake up. Let's eat. Neo brought fruits from outside. Morrigan didn't respond. He got closer to her and noticed she was barely conscious. Her body was burning from fever. Well, I'm not any better myself. Neo was already physically weak. The tournament pushed him beyond his limits. He laid Morrigan in a better position and sat beside her. On the bright side, I can finally sleep, cough. Cough. Neo wanted to sleep. He dug his nails into his arm to keep himself from falling unconscious. Or else, he might wake up in the underworld. Morrigan groaned in her sleep. Wake up, sleeping princess. He talked to her. You lost quite easily for someone who is the strongest of our generations. Shut up. She mumbled in her sleep. I suppose it's normal. There is no way I would lose. I didn't lose. Her expression twisted and she showed her signature frown. Chapter 50, Quest completed. Neo let out a smile. Oh. So. How? About this? The one who sleeps first would lose. They had to stay awake no matter what. Falling unconsciousness in their state would kill them. Hey, princess, why aren't you saying anything? Neo burned his energy to talk. He kept asking her questions, taunting her, making sure she would respond and not fall asleep. There was no deep reason behind his actions. After surviving for days together, he didn't want her to die. Neo felt it. He was close to his limit. Death was just around the corner. For her and for him. Suddenly, he heard a chime. Quest completed. Essence Breath spell acquired. Immortal XP plus 50. Grade 5 Immortal has been mastered. Initiating upgrade. Neo screamed. He clutched his heart and bled from his orifices. He lacked divine energy for the rank up. His body began to eat itself to compensate for it. He felt like he was being stabbed with thousands of needles. Neo tried his best to stop his rank up. Suddenly, the pain stopped. Insufficient energy. Temporarily stopping the upgrade. Neo sighed in relief. The pain washed away all sleepiness. It, however, weakened him. Neo chuckled. He was at death's doorstep. But the quest confirmed it. The tournament finished. Neo won. He won. An unfamiliar presence appeared inside the cave while he was high from dopamine. Ha ha ha, you are laughing in that state. The man, half horse and half human, picked him up carefully. I guess you need to be that crazy to challenge the great god clans. He returned Obidus to the barely conscious Neo and smiled. Congratulations, kid. You are the victor of the 526th ranking tournament. Rejoice, today, you've made history. Sarny Maze. Beneath Mountain Columbus. Elizabeth moved through the maze. Her heels clacked against the broken tiles. The walls on the sides were painted with murals. They spoke of the future, of an age where the gods disappeared, and a world heading to its doom. She reached giant door. They creaked when she pushed them. Waves of thick divine energy hit her when she stepped into the room. A trident, made of blue ethereal metal, floated in the center, chained. It leaked divine energy strong enough to obliterate weaker demigods as soon as they got close. Elizabeth held the trident. The chain snapped. Otherworldly power flowed into her body through the trident. It rampaged. The divine energy inside the room went berserk. Cracks appeared on the floor and the pillars supporting the roof shook. Stop. The divine energy calmed with Elizabeth's one command. After claiming the trident, she looked at the final murals at the roof. They showed the tale of 4 horsemen. Death, the first horseman, rode the red horse. Conquest, the second horseman, rode the white horse. Famine, the third horseman, rode the purple horse. War, the fourth horseman, rode the golden horse. Elizabeth's eyes were fixed at the first horseman. The Sarny Maze hidden beneath the Mount Columbus was created by Elizabeth's ancestor during the Age of Gods. It was a warning for the future. Death. Is it him? Elizabeth tightened her grip around the trident and slashed upwards. The ceiling was destroyed along with the murals. Infirmary. Demigod Academy. The smell of alcohol and antiseptic stung Neo's nose. He opened his eyes. Cough. Cough. The noise alarmed Henry, who sat beside him. Don't try to move, dipshit. Henry grabbed Neo's forehead and forced him to stop moving. He only let go when Neo nodded. Henry returned to his seat after clicking his tongue. 5 broken bones, 20 lacerations, swelling at multiple locations, anemic, starved, and mild traumatic brain injury. It's a miracle you survived a week in that condition. Fucking asshole. What's the point of winning the tournament if you are the one who was beaten the most? What? Cough. Cough. What about Morgan? Henry's face hardened when he heard Neo's question. He glared at Neo. Is that the first thing you ask after waking up? I'm sorry. How are you, brother? Ahaha, aren't you happy I won? Henry glared at him silently. I'm fine. Don't worry. Stop speaking if you don't want me to bash your face in. Neo shut his mouth. Henry clicked his tongue. His hands moved towards the pocket, but he remembered his location and stopped. Sigh. Fuck. I can't even smoke here. Fuck. Henry stood up. He picked 2 stacks of documents from the table and threw them at Neo's infirmary bed. That is your speech for tomorrow's opening ceremony. The first one is given by the Academy. Don't use it. It's full of bullcrap. Read the other one I wrote. Coincidentally, Henry's speech was one only page long, while the Academy-issued speech was of 5 pages. Neo didn't have to be a genius to know Henry's speech's contents. I understand. Neo continued. But what about Morgan? Don't say her fucking name in front of me. I don't care why your stupid ass helped the bitch who tried to kill you. Just be happy I'm not murdering you for being a dumbass. Henry's anger answered Neo. He wouldn't have been so restless if Morgan died. So she survived. Neo was relieved. Her death would have affected the future negatively. Fuck, I can't stand seeing you like this. Why is it taking so long to heal you? Henry was pissed off as he wasn't allowed to use his healers to heal Neo. Apparently, Neo, having dark-type affinities, couldn't be healed with holy affinity. It would destroy his body. They had to use elixirs and medicines to save Neo. The fact that he cauterized the wound on his forearm and let the injury on his stomach fester for a week made it harder to heal him. If Henry hadn't been annoyed after seeing his brother nearly dying on the broadcast, the incompetence of Demigod Academy did the job. I'm okay, Neo spoke. Calm down. You should be thankful you are okay, bitch. Or else, I would have resurrected you and killed you with my own hands. Neo smiled bitterly. It was a good thing the broadcast showed only battles. Had Henry seen Neo suffering for a week, he might have just broken into the tournament area and wreaked havoc. Smiling, Neo shifted his gaze to the doors. He could see 2 people peeking into the room. Chapter 51, Rewards. Henry followed his gaze. TSK, you can talk to them. They were pretty worried about you. He opened the door, revealing Arthur and Felix behind it, and left. Felix ran up to Neo with an excited face. You defeated Morgan. I saw the fight. It was awesome. Everyone's going crazy over your battle. Arthur came behind Felix. He stared at Neo awkwardly. Congratulations. Thanks. Felix noticed the awkwardness. He didn't understand the reason for it. Congrats for the first rank. You might not know it, but you are the first ruler who isn't from Zeus Clan or Poseidon Clan. You've made history. Felix was evidently excited. What about you two? Neo asked. I'm glad you asked. Felix grinned. The Zeus Clan members couldn't find us until the end. And since I stole their rank tokens, they had a hard time in the tournament. Felix's actions in the tournament were more or less as Neo expected. He continued. Also, guess our ranks. Top 10. Yup. I'm rank 2 and Arthur is rank 3. Felix laughed. Though, in my case, Arthur let me have the second rank. It wasn't much, Arthur commented. Neo clicked his tongue. Look at him acting humble. I bet he would have attacked me during the last days for the first rank if we were together, Neo thought. Arthur noticed Neo staring at him. He let out an embarrassed smile. I don't know if I should be happy or sad. The students are calling us the fraud triad. Neo was confused. Seeing him, Arthur explained. Neo used trickery to defeat Morgan. Felix became rank 2 because Arthur helped him. Arthur, despite having Kingsley in his name, wasn't from Zeus Clan. All 3 of them were frauds. Hence, the fraud triad. Let them be. They are just jealous, Felix snorted. Neo nodded. The 3 ate lunch together. Arthur and Felix left after it. Rest well. We will come to pick you up tomorrow. Let's go the entrance ceremony together. Neo waved at them. After they left, Neo checked his rewards. Essence breath. Rank, tremor. Mastery, apprentice. Effect, allows user to breathe in ambient divine energy and purify it. Another tremor rank spell. Neo massaged his forehead. It would have been better if it was a low-ranked spell. Tremor rank spells require tremendous time and effort to be learned. On the other hand, whisper ranked and echo ranked spells could be learned effortlessly. It was easy to raise their masteries. Moreover, low-ranked spells would help him learn divine energy control. High-ranked spells were too complicated to be used regularly as a practice tool for divine energy control. Immortal. XP, 103 100ths. Neo could start his breakthrough any time. He decided to wait until he received the starplum fruit. Consuming the fruit before the breakthrough would increase his gains. Neo closed his eyes and practiced the essence breath spell. He took a deep breath. Small motes of divine energy entered his lungs. From there, he pushed the divine energy into the blood vessels. It was only a tiny amount. He repeated the cycle. Late into the night, Henry arrived with dinner. They ate together. Henry grumbled the academy wouldn't let him stay over and left after telling Neo good night. Left alone, Neo resumed the essence breath spell training. He fell asleep without realizing it. Felix and Arthur came in the morning to wake him up. They brought the academy uniform with them. Neo's uniform was different. He wore the black pants, a black shirt, and a black coat. The tie, also black, had red patterns similar to the coat. What is this? Why is it all black? The rulers could decide their uniform color and design. It was a privilege given to only first-rank students. Your brother chose the design. He said it was your favorite color. I see. The uniform was, strictly speaking, stylish. Nevertheless, Neo felt embarrassed. Even with the cast, he wore the uniform easily. The cloth stretched without ripping itself apart. Neo, cast on one arm and crutch on another, left with Arthur and Felix. They walked towards the destination. The closer they got to the audience hall, the more students began to appear. All of them pointed at Neo, Arthur, and Felix. Neo didn't need to use his death affinity to sense their bloodlust and negative intentions. The top 3 ranks were revered designations in the Demigod Academy. Having 3 frauds as the top 3 was an insult to the academy as well as the students. Oh, Neo spoke. I forgot to bring the speech. Before Arthur and Felix could say anything, he waved his hand. Let's just go. I'll improvise on the spot. If it was before, he might have been intimidated. Giving a speech in front of thousands of students would have made him nervous. But after dying and facing worse threats, he didn't feel anything. The hall was massive and it was filled to the brim. Neo noticed only a single teacher next to the podium. The old man wore a cap and a knitted sweater while he read a newspaper. He noticed Neo, stood up, and went to the podium at the stage. Quiet, he said into the mic. The ruler will give his speech. You lot will receive your rewards after that. He returned to seat and picked up the newspaper. It didn't look like he had anything more to say. Arthur and Felix left. They sat on the front line seats. Neo could see some familiar faces there. Leonora, Lucas Harrison, and a few more. Most of the Zeus Clan members were between rank 20 approximately 30. They took a big hit. Shifting his gaze, he stared at empty space above Leonora's head. His affinities didn't react. So I can't see her spirit. Neo scanned the other seats while he approached the podium. He didn't see Morrigan anywhere. What he saw was hostility, mockery, and derision in the eyes of most of the students. Ahem. He tapped the mic to check if it was working. I'll skip the pleasantries. His eyes landed on Lucas. I'm sure most of you know about me from the registration day. A trickster. A fraud. A weakling. All of you must have seen my battle with Morrigan de Montaigne, and there must be a lot you would want to say. If they fought Neo, they could defeat him. If he fought Morrigan again, he would lose. But no one accepted him as the true first rank. He cheated. That's what their eyes were saying. I don't give a fuck what you think. Shut up and keep your heads down like the loser you are. Chapter 52 Entrance Ceremony. The air turned hostile. Thousands of students glared at Neo. Neo didn't shrink back. He welcomed their ire. What? Why are you all looking at me like that? Is it because I called you losers? Neo swept his gaze around the hall. He saw clenched fists, strained expressions, and the hundreds of auras waiting to explode. You called me a fraud, a weakling. What about you who are ranked below me? Neo smirked. Useless trash that can't be recycled. That's what you all are. Someone who lost to a weakling. Their angry expression made Neo smile. That's right. Get angry. You must be hoping for a chance to prove you aren't a trash. But you all know I won against Morrigan even if I use traps. There is no way you can defeat who triumphed over her. All of you need to train to become stronger, if you want to defeat me and survive the calamity that would soon arrive. Neo knew his actions would put him in danger. However, he was ready to gamble his life if he could push the students to grow stronger. They, after living a luxurious life, became conceited. Only a defeat against a no-name demigod like him could take them down from their high horses. Some of the students were about to shout when suddenly the doors opened. A young man followed by Amelia walked in. He clapped once to draw attention of everyone. Okay, that's enough for the ruler's speech. Percival, the student council president, smiled bitterly. Crazy bastard. He stared at Neo. Was he planning to start a fight? Thankfully, he was peeking into the entrance ceremony. Although his actions were against the rule, he saved the dignity of the entrance ceremony with the interruption. Neo Hargraves, thank you for your kind words. I will take it from here, Percival said. Neo nodded and sat beside Arthur and Felix. After Percival took the stage, he spoke the actual entrance ceremony speech. Most of the students ignored Percival. Their attention and hatred were aimed at Neo. Their stares sting, Felix said. Arthur smiled ruefully. He couldn't agree more. Suddenly, they heard Harrison's comment. Fucking frauds thinking they are hot shit. Don't be like that, Harrison. There are some people who don't know they were lucky to succeed and think it was their skill. Even if they are foolish, we shouldn't admonish them, Lucas replied. Harrison snickered. I'm sorry, he said. Ah, I can smell the jealousy in air, Felix spoke. Must be some sore losers. Arthur spat. His attempts to suppress the laugh only served to irritate Harrison. Hey, you. Percival's aura suddenly descended over the first row. He stared at them with a side eye while he continued his speech. Shut up, his gaze said. His masterful control made it so no one, except the students in the first row, would know he used his aura. Felix and Harrison groaned. The others were not much better. After warning them against causing a commotion, Percival retracted his aura. The entrance ceremony ended. Neo and others were guided to their dormitories. They arrived at a crossroad. Each road takes us to one of the 5 dormitories, the guide explained. He had a lower half body of a horse and the upper body of a human. Neo recognized him as the one who saved him and Morrigan in the tournament. The dormitories will be divided according to your ranks, Damien said. Seraphim Hall for rank 1 approximately 10. Cherubim Hall for rank 11 approximately 100. Archangel Hall for rank 101 approximately 500. Guardian Hall for rank 501 approximately 1000. Celestial Hall for rank 1001 approximately 1876. Neo, Arthur, and Felix were brought to the Seraphim Hall. The building stretched as far as Neo could see. It had an empty area in the middle, which was large enough to house a cafe, a pool, a common training area, and an entertainment zone. Is that all? Harrison questioned Damien. I thought the top 10 would receive better facilities than this. Yes, after all, this isn't the Zeus Clan's villa, but the dormitory for students training in Demigod Academy. TSK, useless. Damien continued to smile without retorting. After he explained the basic rules of the dormitory, he gave everyone a few palm-sized boxes. These are your rewards. You must use them on yourself. If it's found you shared or sold it, there would be heavy penalties. He left after the explanation. The students split up. What will you guys do? Felix asked. I'm not sure. Arthur shook his head. I'll decide after listening to you two. Then how about we go to the gaming zone? It will be fun. Arthur nodded with a subdued expression. Games. Are you for real? You don't know what games are. Hahaha, I'm sorry. My circumstances are complicated. Listening to him, Felix decided they would go to the gaming zone. He turned to Neo. You are coming too, right? I can't. Neo showed his reward box. Starplum fruit needs to be consumed a week after it's plucked. I don't know how many days passed since the Academy got their hands on it, so I'll consume it now. Felix's excitement reduced. He made Neo promise he would come along with them next time. We'll come to your room before the dinner. Let's go together. See you later. Bye. The two left. Neo went towards his room. It was similar to the knockoff dorm he used before the tournament. Only this one was bigger and had more facilities like a TV, a refrigerator, and king-sized beds. Neo sat cross-legged on the training room's ground. He opened the reward box. There was a golden pearl inside it. It had a sweet, intoxicating aroma. Neo put it into his mouth. The sweetness rolled over his tongue. He let go of the hold over his core. Restarting upgrade. Neo bit down on the starplum fruit. Divine energy rushed out of it endlessly. His body devoured everything like a black hole. His injuries healed rapidly. He gained muscles and his complexion improved. A sense of unforgettable comfort surged inside him. His body evolved and his divine energy pool increased. Unique skill Immortal Grade 5 has been upgraded to Immortal Grade 4. Rank, Grade 5 Awakened, Grade 4 Awakened. Chapter 53, Grade 5 Mythic Purity. The rush of divine energy increased over time. It enveloped Neo in a golden hue. He took a deep breath and sucked the divine energy surrounding him at once. His core bloated like a balloon about to burst. He compressed the divine energy and forced it to stay inside the core. When the compression reached the limit, he let go and the divine energy exploded into the surroundings. It was denser than a moment ago. Neo sucked it in again and compressed it. He let it all out when he was done. After repeating the process several times, his core cracked. It let out a thunderous roar and shattered. Another core, larger, formed from its pieces and it stored his dense divine energy. Divine Energy Purity, Grade 1 Awakened, Grade 5 Mythic. Neo's blood gained a strong shade of gold. His skin became fair and his scars disappeared. He could tell his affinities became stronger. Specifically, his attunement to his elements increased. Neo opened his eyes slowly. He let out a putrid breath and noticed his body covered in black gunk. His nose scrunched. It smells. Neo was about to take a bath when suddenly a faint lightning bolt hit his window. He saw Felix and Arthur below at the ground. Scanning the area, he could see several students who were similarly staring at Neo's window. What was that? Felix shouted to ensure his voice reached the third floor. Your divine energy just went berserk. Are you okay? Yeah, I had a breakthrough. My divine energy didn't go berserk. Felix went silent. He, along with Arthur, stared at Neo with wide eyes. Breakthrough? Felix spoke with trembling voice. You were successful in digesting the starplum fruit? Neo nodded. Mythic purity? Felix questioned in disbelief. Yeah. Wow, fuck. Felix covered his face. He suddenly turned around and laughed hysterically. Ha ha ha, everyone, you called him a weakling. No, he is far stronger than all of you. I bet none of you have Grade 1 Divine Purity, let alone Grade 5 Mythic Purity. Harrison and Lucas frowned and left without saying a word. The other students, irritated by Felix's boasting, returned to their rooms. Neo just shook his head. We'll have a party tonight. It's your treat. Felix shouted before Neo left. Okay. Neo closed the window. He smiled at Felix's antics. After he returned from the bath, he cleaned the room. It took a bit of time to remove the smell. I've achieved my goal of mythic purity. Neo sat on the sofa and opened a drink. He let himself rest as a reward for the hard work he did during the tournament. There are still 2.5 days left. What should I do now? Underworld was anything but safe. Neo knew he had to prepare more if he wanted to complete Barbados training. Since my combat techniques should be sufficient, I should focus on survival. Food and water. Neo needed them after he lost the Underworld's blessing. Battles exhausted him greatly. It made him hungry and thirsty. He could ignore hunger for the 12 hours he spent in Underworld. Water, however, was a problem. I guess that decides it. I'll learn to create water. It should be possible with my water affinity. And I'll use the remaining time to awaken my shadow affinity. Neo needed training manuals. He was about to visit the library when someone rang his doorbell. Delivery. Please sign this, Damien said. Neo took the parcel and returned inside. This sender's address. It's the previous Neo. The parcel was sent from the apartment where Neo woke up in this world. It was sent one day before his arrival. Neo opened the parcel. The box was empty save for the slip of paper at the bottom. What's this? The paper had 9 dots similar to a phone's lock pattern. A line joined multiple dots. Is this my phone's password? Neo checked. The pattern wasn't for the phone. Strange. Why send this? The suspicious timing and address of the parcel made Neo frown. Looking back, Neo never knew what happened to the original Neo. He, according to Henry, was an introvert who often acted as if he lost his memories and ran away from home. It was against his usual self to register for the Demigod Academy. Suddenly, a thought appeared in Neo's head. He looked at the paper in his hand. Is it the private app password? He used the Akashic Record, internet, to know how to open the privacy settings. After watching a tutorial, he opened the private app space. It asked for a pattern-type password. Neo used the pattern on the slip of paper. The pattern worked. There was a single video in the private space. Why am I nervous? Neo noticed his heart beating loudly. He gulped. There had to be a reason why the previous Neo left a video behind and used a roundabout way to send the password. It was as if he knew someone else would possess his body. No, that is impossible. Neo took a deep breath to calm himself. He clicked on the video. The recording started with a static noise. It showed an apartment. The original Neo sat on the sofa. He scratched his face repeatedly, leaving red marks over his face that caused him to bleed. His eyes shook and he seemed to be out of breath. He was afraid. If you are seeing this video, then I am dead. The original Neo took a deep breath. He tried to smile, but it only revealed the intense fear he was trying to hide. I'm leaving this video as a warning for my successor. Run away. There was a noise as if something fell in the kitchen. The original Neo jumped and tried to run away. He came back after a few seconds. He smiled bitterly. I guess you must be thinking I'm pathetic. He. His body shivered. Sorry. Is the video weird? I guess I'll start from the beginning. He picked the camera and held it in his hand. His sunken cheeks and hollow eyes made him look like a corpse. I'm Neo Clinton, the second person to possess Neo Hargraves. Chapter 54, Neo Clinton. He. You must be shocked, right? He scratched his cheek. I'm the same as you. My world was destroyed by, and I suddenly woke up in this body. Neo paused the video. It glitched when Neo Clinton revealed the name of those who destroyed his world. I couldn't hear it. He replayed the video from 10 seconds ago and listened carefully. I'm the same as you. My world was destroyed by, and I suddenly woke up in this body. Again. The video glitched and he couldn't hear the identity. Neo bit his lips. His world could have been destroyed by the zombie apocalypse. Was it done by someone intentionally? He had to know the answer. No matter how many times he replayed the video, it would glitch weirdly. Neo sighed and decided to watch the complete video. It must been hard, right? Trying to survive in a dying world only to die and wake up in a world with a horrible family. Neo Clinton smiled. I don't know who you are. But run away and hide. You can't defeat them. No one can defeat them. He gulped. It really doesn't matter though. I will die, you will die, Eve, everyone will die. Still, I hope you will survive. This message is to warn you of something else. Someone is after Neo H. Hargrave's life. The original Neo Hargraves and my predecessor were killed by that person. I don't know who it is. But that person will definitely come after you. Neo Clinton took a deep breath. Please, survive for as long as possible. I don't want to be forgotten, so, please, live for me. The video ended. Neo put down his phone and massaged his brows. Someone murdered the original Neo and the other two people who possessed the body of original Neo? Despite receiving the shocking news, Neo kept his calm. I can't trust this video. It's too weird. It's entirely possible the original Neo found out about someone aiming for him life. Coupled with his weak personality, the shock might have made him insane. He started to think the story of two non-existent people possessing his body, and left the video behind not knowing someone would actually possess his body. It sounded like a far-stretched theory to Neo. However, it had a high chance of being correct. After all, wouldn't Henry notice if his brother's personality changed 3 times? And, if Neo Clinton was afraid of people forgetting him, he could have revealed he wasn't Neo Hargraves. He didn't do that. There were too many strange points in the video. Sigh. Neo burned the slip of paper on the kitchen stove. I can't do anything either way. It's not like I can confirm the truth about the video. He clicked his tongue and decided to focus on the task at hand. The library was far from the Seraphim Hall. Neo used the Akashic Record internet app for the navigation. It took him time to reach his destination. The campus was horrendously large. Neo smiled. He didn't tire out after walking. The breakthrough gave a nice boost to his physical condition. He felt like tearing up. The day, where he could run without feeling like dying, wasn't far off. On the way, Neo checked his status. Neo Hargraves. Rank, Grade 4 Awakened. Divine Energy Purity, Grade 5 Mythic. Stats. Strength, 23. Speed, 24. Dexterity, 18. Constitution, 16. Luck, 0. Affinity, Death, Shadow, Darkness, Void, Water. Magic Spell, Necrotic Touch, Ocean's Embrace, Essence Breath. Bloodline, Monarch of Death. Unique Skill, Death, Immortal. Quest, Barbados Training, Part 1. His stats increased by 7. It was, as expected, a big jump. When one's rank increases, their stats receive a boost, but it is only a side effect. Divine Energy Pool and Unique Skills are the ones that get a huge amplifications. Neo could tell his Divine Energy reserves doubled after the breakthrough. I bet my skill got a huge. Immortal. XP, 0/150th. Effect, you gain an extra life every 24 hours, max stack, 4. What? The stack increased by 1. That's it. Neo really wanted to cry. He expected something like this to happen and it still made his heart break. Unique skills upgraded in a linear fashion. It is only when they evolve that they change drastically. Like how death became immortal. Neo reached the library with a heavy heart. Today is a holiday. The library is closed. The guard was about to tell him off until he saw Neo's clothes. Ruler of the first years. He bowed and opened the door. Welcome, Sir Ruler. The library, while closed, could be used by special students like top 10 students or student council members. Now where are the books on water element and shadow element? The reception was empty. While Neo was trying to find a solution to his predicament, he noticed Percival and Amelia coming down from the 2nd floor. Neo. Amelia noticed him first. Percival followed her gaze. Oh my, if it isn't the suicide-loving first year. They came up to Neo. What are you doing here? Percival asked. Looking for books on water element and shadow element. Percival smiled, half shocked, half surprised. You can already use death and darkness, and you are trying to use more elements. Wow, maybe I should call you the crazy suicide-loving first year. You'll confuse him if you explain it like that. Amelia shook her head. She turned to Neo. Sorry, he doesn't mean bad. He is just annoyed his tournament victor predictions were wrong. They weren't wrong, just slightly off. No one could have expected his defense spell to be strong enough to survive the fall, Percival retorted. Not even the great me. Amelia ignored him like the air and checked Neo. Why are you outside? Your injuries shouldn't be healed already. They did. Neo released a bit of his divine energy. I had a breakthrough. Amelia and Percival understood he healed after the rank up. However, they couldn't help but be surprised at Neo's attitude. Chapter 55, Elizabeth's Arrival. Anyone would be jumping around and boasting if they reached mythic purity, not to mention Neo was far ahead of others. Yet, he didn't do that and continued to train. Whatever, it's nothing special. Percival let out a mocking smile. I had mythic purity far before others. The great me attained it before joining the academy. Amelia was exasperated. She never expected much from Percival, but he managed to hit a new low today. Don't be jealous of your juniors, she sighed. Percival shrugged and left. He told her to explain library rules to Neo before she returned. The library is divided into 2 floors. First years can only use the first floor. You can get spell books for all 108 elements from the library, but only if you have the element's affinity. You must pay to rent the spell books and you can't share them with others. Since you don't have any credits, you can't take anything. Neo frowned when he listened to her explanation. I don't need spell books, only books with basic elemental knowledge. I need credits for them too? He asked. Yes, Amelia smiled bitterly. The academy is based on meritocracy. You get rewards if you show results, but you don't get anything if there are no results. Credits could be earned through missions or be awarded by professors. Neo had to wait until tomorrow, when the classes started, if he wanted to earn credits. Seeing his frown, Amelia got closer to him. Show me your phone. Just do it. Neo took out his smartphone. Amelia clicked on her phone a few times and held it above Neo's phone. A notification arrived. Amelia added you to her friend list. You are now friends with Amelia. Amelia has sent 10 credits. You've exhausted 20% of your credit transfer limit. Oh. Amelia spoke. The new ruler gets 50 credits transfer limit. I'm jealous. She tapped her phone on her chin and smiled. Anyway, congrats on becoming the ruler. Think of the credits as a gift from me. You should be able to buy the books you need with them. Thanks. Don't mind it. She left after explaining a few more rules to Neo. Alone inside the library, Neo went around the library to get 2 books. He didn't waste much time since Amelia told him where he could find them. Water Element, How to Use Your Affinity. For Toddlers. Shadow Element, Awaken, My Powers. He went to the reception. The table had an empty box. Following Amelia's advice, he placed the book inside and typed his name on the keyboard next to the box. The box flashed a light on Neo to confirm his identity. A notification arrived on his phone. 2 books have been rented. 10 credits deducted. Deadline to return the book, 1 month. He left the library. The guard at the door confirmed the completion of renting process before Neo was allowed to leave with the books. Neo returned to his room and opened the Water Element book first. What he needed now was not a spell. He only wanted to learn to create water using his water affinity. Magic was similar to architecture. An architect could create a house with his own experience, or he could use precise equipments to build the house. Spells were a magician's equipment. A demigod could use a water affinity spell to create water, or they could use their experience to produce water without a spell. It depended on one's mastery over the element and the complexity of the magic they wanted to use. Creating water was the most basic process. There was no need for a spell to achieve it. I should start training. Neo took a deep breath. He kept the book aside. His veins glowed and he burned his divine energy. An unfrequented area on the border of Demigod Academy. Elizabeth moved through the place. She held a large gig bag on her back and had her presence suppressed. While she was trying to secretly visit Neo and Amelia, she suddenly sensed a powerful presence moving towards her at a rapid speed. A beat later, a gigantic phoenix appeared in the sky. It blotted out the sun with its huge body and stared at Elizabeth. An old woman, barely 150 centimeters with bob-cut hairstyle and a face full of wrinkles, jumped down from the phoenix's back. She landed in front of Elizabeth. "TSK, I thought you were dead," the old woman, Charlotte, said. Watching Elizabeth's silence, Charlotte became livid. "You never visited your master in ages, and now you did, you won't even greet your master." "It is good to see you, master. If you are happy, then stop making a face as if you stepped on shit." Charlotte raised her cane and shouted. She huffed. "Anyway, why are you here?" "To meet them." Her answer made Charlotte frown. "That's all?" Charlotte asked. "What will you do after you meet your daughter and that boy?" "I'll return." "Return to where, you dumb girl? The entire world thinks you are dead. Where are you going to live? Are you thinking of wasting your life while living in hiding after you finally left that damned country behind?" Charlotte stopped shouting. She was out of breath. Her glare was aimed at Elizabeth. "Then what should I do?" Elizabeth asked. "If I stay with them, I'll only put them in danger." She couldn't ask for help. Not after ghosting Charlotte for decades. "TSK, you might have become a queen, but you are still foolish. I can't believe you faked your death without any contingency plan." Charlotte, the principal of Demigod Academy, turned around. She whistled and the phoenix flew down. "Follow me. I knew you would come to meet them, so I've prepared a disguise and a job for you. You are going to be the teacher of the first years now and live here," she said. Charlotte jumped on the phoenix's back. Elizabeth didn't follow her immediately. She didn't know how to respond. Even though she never fulfilled any duty of a disciple, her master still cared for her. "Thank you." Chapter 56, Late Night Dinner. Neo exhaled as he lay on his back. Damn, this is fucking tough. It had been hours since he started training. He made zero progress. Water element and shadow element. Neo could not manipulate them at all. "I can use Ocean's Embrace, even if it's a water affinity spell, because Elizabeth ingrained the technique on my magic circuits. Otherwise, I can't use water element." He knew it was normal. Only 2 weeks passed since he came to this world. His speed was already fast. It would be too much to expect a newbie like him to gain mastery over 4 elements so quickly. Sigh, why am I trying to find excuses again? It doesn't matter if my growth rate is good. There is no genius on a battlefield, only victors and losers. My growth pace doesn't matter if I can't win. Neo had to do better. His enemies wouldn't wait for him to grow stronger. He had to break through his limits if he wanted to survive and win. Sighing, Neo stood up. "I'll eat something and refill my energy before I start training again." The cafeteria would be open even though it was night. He left the room. Arthur and Felix sat on the bench outside his room. The two were asleep, with their Felix leaning his head on Arthur's shoulder. "Jan, how did your training go?" Felix opened his eyes when he noticed Neo's presence. So, Neo answered. "What are you two doing here?" "Waiting for you to treat us." Felix yawned before he continued. "We would have come earlier, but we met the student council vice president. She told us you were training and we shouldn't disturb you. So, we've been waiting for you to come out for dinner after your training ended." Felix yawned while he tried to wake up Arthur. The protagonist was half asleep. He only nodded and his eyes remained close. "Did you guys eat anything?" "No, we were waiting for you." Felix continued to yawn. He was only a little better than Arthur. "Then, let's go eat," Neo smiled bitterly. He didn't expect them to wait for him until the midnight. The Seraphim Hall had its own cafeteria. "Are you going to treat us?" "I can't, I don't have credits," Neo told Felix. The cafeteria had specific meals that were provided for free. If the students wanted to eat something different, they had to buy it. Most of the times, the meals differed for everyone. After all, they had a choice to get high quality and limited amount meal set, or low quality and high amount meal set. "Jan, let's just eat what we can get. We can have the treat later." The trio entered the cafeteria. Felix had to support Arthur throughout the way, since he walked with his eyes closed, half asleep, and almost hit several walls face first. "He is completely different right now since he is sleepy." Felix smiled wryly. Neo nodded. Arthur was like a kid who couldn't stay awake past the bedtime. The door of the cafeteria tingled. They walked towards the counter when suddenly they saw Morrigan. She sat on the seat at the front. Her plate was filled with dozens of bread pieces. She wore black leggings and black tank top that revealed her navel. Her body was covered in sweat and a white towel rested at her neck. Her cheeks were stuffed, filled to the brim with the bread. Morrigan gulped the food and froze. She exchanged gazes with Neo and Felix. Neo went to the counter after staring at her for a few seconds. Felix followed after him. Hey, we should go. I'm not hungry anymore. Felix noticed Morrigan's murderous gaze at them before he whispered. Let's get out. She looks angry. Wait for me. I'll get my food first. Neo ordered 4 burgers. Felix altered his gaze between Neo and Morrigan. Unlike Neo, Felix knew what was happening with her. She had been called back to the Zeus Clan as she lost the first rank and to a low rank, no-name demigod at that. Rumors were circulating that she was no longer the leader of Zeus Clan's circle inside the academy. From a revered genius to a laughingstock. Neo destroyed her life. Sigh, I'll get something to eat too, Felix said. He followed Neo closely and made sure to stay away from Morrigan. Until Neo sat in front of her. What do you want? Morrigan frowned. Neo didn't talk and focused on eating. Felix sat next to him nervously. He couldn't eat any under Morrigan's stare. Suddenly, Arthur laughed. He woke up and stared at Morrigan's plate. You eat like a pig. His head drooped and fell asleep. Felix closed his eyes. His expression was one of a soldier about to die. He thought Morrigan would attack without hesitation until he saw her lowering her head. Her ears were bright red. She stared at the ground, almost as if she wanted to dig a hole and hide in it. Don't mind him. He talks nonsense when he is asleep, Neo spoke up. He passed 2 of his burgers to Morrigan. What is this? You can have them. It must have been exhausting training late into the night. She glared at him, but it wasn't scary when she was on verge of tears. It was weird for her to show so many emotions. He wanted to get closer to her and find out why she was different from the novel. And what was better way to befriend a glutton than to feed them? Morrigan pursed her lips. Her dignity and emotions told her to flip the table and leave. You don't need it. Neo grabbed the plate with burgers. He was about to pull it back when Morrigan suddenly grabbed the plate. Tears welled up in her eyes. Morrigan didn't say anything. She wanted to refuse, but couldn't. Neo let go. He didn't say anything else, since he didn't want to make things awkward for Morrigan. He left with Felix when they finished their dinner. Wow, she's different from rumors, Felix muttered. How so? Chapter 57, Who is she? She's more normal than I thought. His smile faded and he frowned. Though it's weird how she didn't seem angry with you. Neo agreed with him. It didn't feel like Morrigan cared if she won or lost. She was the opposite of the bloodthirsty, power-seeking Morrigan he knew. Good night. Sleep well. They split up after a bit. Felix took Arthur, saying he would bring him to his room. After returning to the room, Neo trained for a bit and slept. He woke up in the morning. The classes start today, he said to himself. I still can't use water and shadow. Guess I need to ask for help from the teacher. He wanted to sigh. The classrooms were assigned when he was unconscious after the tournament. Neo was in the class with the main cast. Their teacher was an extremist who favored God Clan's descendants. Arthur faced a lot of problems in the novel thanks to him, and now I will too. He initially didn't want to ask for help from the teacher. But there was no choice left. Just as he was about to leave, there was a loud knock on the door. Neo. There is a problem. He opened the door and found Arthur on the other side. Arthur was drenched in sweat while his face was filled with concerns. What happened? I can't find Felix. I've searched for him everywhere and there is no clue where he went. He isn't even picking up his phone. Arthur became restless. Do you think the Zeus Clan got him? He asked worriedly. There was a high chance Felix was targeted, since he made a fool out of Zeus Clan and he was the weakest among the 3. Calm down. Neo added when his words failed to assure Arthur. The Academy's principal can monitor the whole Academy premises at all times. There is no way the Zeus Clan members will act out while she is watching. Then, where is Felix? Arthur asked. He might be busy. We should go to the class. I bet we will find him there. Arthur wanted to ask why Neo was so sure, but he decided to believe his words for now. They entered the classroom. The chatty atmosphere turned deathly silent as soon as they stepped in. Neo ignored them. He wanted to sit at the back bench. Unfortunately, he had to choose the middle seats in order to be with Felix and Arthur. Arthur on the right, Neo in the center, and Felix would sit on the left when he came. It feels weird to receive so much attention from the main cast, he thought. Neo was not going to push away Arthur just because he was the protagonist. He saw no reason to not befriend the future leader of humanity. While he was waiting for the class to start, he turned to Arthur. I'm stuck with affinity control. Can you help with that? Yes. Of course, I will help if I can. Neo explained his problem with water and shadow affinity. He did not want to ask for help from the homeroom teacher if possible. Oh, just that. You have to feel your affinity and ask it to work. That's all. You should be able to use water affinity with this method since you can use its spell already. Neo wanted to punch Arthur. Did he not know not everyone was a genius like him? Noticing his expression, Arthur gave more solutions. They were all useless. While they chatted, the main cast arrived. Morrigan scanned the classroom as she stood at the doorstep. Her gaze hovered on Neo. A beat later, she sat on the front seat. After her, Leonora entered the class. She wore a jacket over the academy uniform and walked with her head down. Leonora sat at the back bench Neo planned to sit. A few minutes later, a boy with red flaming hair and a wild aura about him arrived. He went to the back of the classroom. Can I sit here? He asked Leonora while pointing at the seat next to her. She raised her head and looked at him with a nervous expression. And no, please keep your ugly face away from my eyesight. Mars was stunned. The students knew not to laugh. Except for one of them. PFFTT. Arthur's attempts at suppressing his laughter were worse than Neo's excuses. Before Mars could say anything to him, a hand hit Arthur's back. I told you my jokes are funny. The girl, beautiful and proportionate, with lavender hair, continued to hit his back. She turned to Mars. Sorry if we interrupted you. I had a bet with him. Mars nodded, still unable to recover from Leonora's answer, and he took another seat. Thanks, Arthur told the girl. He understood she saved him from a troublesome matter. But who are you? I've never seen you before, he said. You don't recognize me. The girl seemed surprised at Arthur's confusion. Dude, it's me. Did you forget I have Aphrodite bloodline? She said. Arthur tilted his head, unable to understand her words. He turned to Neo for an explanation. The Aphrodite bloodline's first unique skill allows them to change their gender. Oh. Arthur stared at the girl, then at Neo, then back at the girl. Felix. He was too shocked to form proper words. I'm really curious about your childhood now. How can you not know about my clan's skill? Felix shook her head and sat to left of Neo. Soon, the class was filled with students. At exactly 9:30, the homeroom teacher entered the class. Her black hair with dark blue undershade and her red eyes complemented her perfect nose, small lips, and cold expression. She wore a light blue shirt, a black tie, a leg-slit skirt, and a fashionable overcoat that went well with her clothes. Good morning, I'm Anna Rose. Your homeroom teacher. She stood at the podium and swept her gaze around. Her eyes stopped at Neo for a brief second. Chapter 58, First Class on Aura Manifestation. Neo didn't notice her gaze. His mind was preoccupied with other thoughts. Anna Rose. Who is she? This was the first time he heard about her. What happened to the original homeroom teacher of the class? The present changed. It was not the same as Neo knew. Did our homeroom teacher change because of my actions? A butterfly effect. Small flaps of a butterfly could cause tsunamis on the other side of the world. Neo's minor actions might possibly change the future drastically. He would lose the advantage of knowing the future if this continued. But so it began. Neo smiled. It's possible for me to change the future. I don't know how much changes the fate would allow, but this confirms my actions aren't meaningless. Neo never wanted to maintain the status quo. The future was a meaningless world ravaged by wars and destruction where the protagonist failed. The heroes died. The gods fell. Nobody could stop the calamities. So, Neo would protect his future by taking the matters in his own hands. We'll take the attendance before starting the class, Anna said. After the attendance, Anna explained about the curriculum. The first month classes will teach about the basics you've already learned. It is to allow students from outside of God clans to catch up to their peers. She continued. There is no minimum compulsory attendance. But beware, the professors might hold a grudge if you keep bunking their classes. Neo listened carefully. While he knew everything beforehand, he needed to make sure there was no gap between his knowledge and the actual information. Credits are the currency used inside Demigod Academy. You can buy anything with them. Spellbooks, equipment, holidays, extra lessons from the professors. There is no limit to what the credits can buy. Just remember one thing. You need to pay with credits if you want to sit in exams. If you don't have any credits, you won't be allowed to take the exam and you will be failed. Now, I'll explain about the Templar course. The students straightened their backs and focused on her words. All of them came to the academy to receive the Junior Templar certificate. It was important. You can convert 1,000 credits into a star. Only those with 3 stars or above can attempt the Junior Templar exam. If you are able to gain 5 stars, you can become a Junior Templar without challenging the Junior Templar exam. You will receive credits for completing missions, special tasks, or they will be awarded by the professors. So work hard. The explanation was easy to understand. It took a few minutes to complete. Some students asked about their doubts. Anna answered them patiently. After half an hour, Anna changed the topic. Since the explanation has been given, we will start the class. I will be teaching you about aura and aura manipulation. It's your core subject for the first semester. Everyone grew visibly excited. Aura manipulation was an advanced branch of elemental manipulation. It was easy to use aura to intimidate others. However, that was just the beginning. High-level demigods used aura attacks to battle their foes. We'll start with basic elemental control today. I want all of you to use your secondary elements and manifest its aura. The students followed her words. Neo closed his eyes and tried to do the same. Death and darkness. He was familiar with them. They were his primary elements. His mastery over water element was poor, thus it was a secondary element for him. Minutes ticked by. Neo couldn't do anything at all. Unlike others, he failed to manifest the slightest bit of aura using water affinity. Anna noticed him. She picked a piece of chalk and drew on the blackboard. Elemental manipulation is divided into 3 steps: core, god blood, magic circuits. Her words drew the attention of the class. This information was not in the books Neo took from the library. He tuned out the distractions and focused on the class. Core helps you convert your non-elemental divine energy into elemental divine energy. Neo frowned. That sounded too easy. It was something he never heard before, and he doubted it was so simple to use elemental divine energy. He had been training for days and he had been unsuccessful. Still, he followed Anna's words. He controlled his divine energy and pushed it into his core. His mind went through a tremendous change. He felt enlightened. As if he was a blind man who could suddenly see, or if he found the wallet he was searching for inside his pocket. How didn't I notice this sooner? Neo felt bewildered. Whenever he used spells, he had been using his core to create elemental divine energy. It was a gap. He was directly fed with information of spells. The instant mastery allowed him to use the spells without former training. In exchange, it left huge holes in his basic knowledge. Anna stared at Neo expressionlessly. Her eyes gleamed at his success. Your god blood carries the elemental divine energy and it distributes the energy throughout your body. The amount of divine energy your god blood can store determines your divine energy reserves. The purity of the divine energy is decided by the concentration of divine energy per unit god blood. The process of infusing divine energy with water element was slow and tiresome. He was not dejected at his snail-like pace. After all, he could finally sense his water element. It was a huge progress compared to a day ago where he couldn't feel his water affinity at all. He, however, still couldn't use the water element-infused aura. The lecture continued. Magic circuits are the outlets that allow you to pour your divine energy out of your body into the surroundings. They are like muscles. The more you use a magic circuit on a certain part of your body, like your palms, the faster you can let out your divine energy through your palms. Neo closed his eyes. He tried to sense the magic circuits on his body. After locating a few of them, he pushed out his water element-infused divine energy. He manifested a pale blue aura. Chapter 59 Aura Blade. A smile appeared on Neo's face. After manifesting the aura, he tried to create water. Neo failed. He tried again. And again. And again. The result was the same. I guess I'm still far off from reaching the necessary level. Neo smiled bitterly. He had a lot to learn. When he was busy practicing, Anna explained. Looks like all of you can use your auras. Now, I want you to create an aura blade. The faces of students hardened. Aura blade was the first combat technique of aura manifestation branch. A person needed months of training to manifest an aura blade. Take your time. It's a difficult technique, so there is no need to feel pressured to create an aura blade in today's class, Anna said. They practiced. Only Morgan, Arthur, Lucas, Harrison, and Mars could create an aura blade among the 60 students. The students felt the gap between geniuses and themselves. While their eyes wandered around, someone spoke. Hey, look at him. The student pointed at Neo. He was enveloped in a pale blue aura. His aura was weak and it flickered like a candle flame soon to be extinguished. The level of one's elemental mastery determined one's aura strength. Neo's control over water element, even as a secondary affinity, was far below average. Harrison laughed. Look at our ruler. The fraud can't do anything if he isn't cheating. Harrison's words broke Neo's focus. Disturbed, Neo's aura shattered. It only made Harrison laugh more. I can't believe someone could lose to a fraud like him. Morgan ignored the jab. Neo was about to do the same when suddenly Anna opened her mouth. Student Harrison, every person has their own speciality and weakness. There is no need to put someone down because they cannot measure up to you in your speciality. Her words made Harrison crease his brows. What? I didn't say anything wrong. You can ask anyone in this class. That weakling became the ruler because he cheated. That's his only speciality. Oh wait, he has a loud mouth too. A few students snickered. Their mocking gazes were aimed at Neo. Neo pursed his lips. He was about to ignore them when his eyes met Anna. Both of you come up on the stage, she said. Neo didn't understand her intentions, but he followed her words. He stood next to the podium alongside Harrison. Anna turned to the class. They will now demonstrate the usage of Aura Blade. She turned to Harrison. You first. Okay. Harrison smirked at Neo before he took the stage. He picked a ruler from the professor's table and held it like a sword. A grunt escaped his lips and lightning manifested around his body. It wasn't a spell, just plain lightning elemental manifestation. Suddenly, the lightning sparks crackled. They twisted and collapsed into themselves. The air tingled with an electrifying dizziness and the room was basked into a golden glow. When the berserk lightning returned to control, the ruler in the Harrison's hand underwent massive changes. It was wrapped in small, solid golden lightning. The lightning moved slowly and in a conspicuous pattern. Harrison slashed. A small lightning arc shot out of the ruler and split the professor's table into two halves. The attack continued to move forward. It left a deep burrow in the wall before it disappeared. The students broke out of the trance when Harrison coughed to grab their attention. They clapped enthusiastically. Harrison gave the ruler to Neo and let out a victorious smirk. This is what an actual genius can do. It's not something the likes of you frauds can ever hope to achieve. Neo agreed with Harrison. Partially at least. Aura Blade was a dividing line between talent and mediocrity. The only way for a talentless person like him to use Aura Blade was to familiarize himself with the element to the point it became a second nature to him. Neo, your turn, Anna said. He exhaled. Why was the professor doing this? There was no way he could use Aura Blade. The students stared at Neo. Their gazes revealed their expectations of him. They were waiting for him to fail. You can use it. Your mastery over your element is good enough, Anna whispered. Just follow my words. Neo knew his limits. He could not use an Aura Blade. Maybe she just wanted to make fun of him. He was wrong to think of her as a diligent teacher. She might have replaced the previous homeroom teacher, but she was just as bad. Unleash your aura, she said. Neo followed her words. A heavy aura of death descended. The students stopped smiling. Their expressions contorted and a few of them frothed from their mouth. They groaned, unable to handle the pressure. That's wrong. Compress your divine energy inside your core to the limit. Before releasing it, she advised. Suddenly, the aura pressing over the room was sucked into Neo's body. A thin line of sweat formed on his forehead. He never tried to limit his death aura before and it was hard to control. Still, Neo was familiar with death. He survived an underworld where death was rampant and he experienced death multiple times. If mastery over the element was a condition of using Aura Blade. What? Harrison gasped. Faint sparks of red lightning flickered around Neo's palm. Red lightning. The students couldn't believe their eyes. Not after seeing Neo's poor mastery over water element. They thought his primary element's aura would be no different. But A-Aura Blade? The red lightning crackled silently. It twisted like a snake, vicious, poisonous, and like death itself. The ruler in Neo's hand crumbled into dust. Neo was left gasping for breath after the red lightning disappeared. His hands shivered uncontrollably. He almost fell from exhaustion. However, no one laughed at him anymore. They couldn't. I hope now you know why you shouldn't make fun of others, Anna told Harrison before she turned to the class. Most of the students can't use Aura Blade, but it isn't because they have no talent. You all lacked the resources and teaching of the God clans. It's a given you are lacking in comparison to the geniuses of your generation. Don't put yourself down. With sufficient time and training at the academy, your results will be able to catch up to your peers quickly. Chapter 60, Information about Missions. Harrison's expression twisted into an ugly grimace. He glared at Neo. The students from outside of God clans looked at Neo in a different light. They didn't see him as a fraud anymore. Their gazes carried respect towards him. That's it for today's aura manipulation class. We'll go to the mission hall now, Anna said. The students followed her out of the classroom. Felix and Arthur approached Neo. That was amazing. Felix smiled. Yeah, your aura is strong. It makes me shiver every time I feel it, Arthur said. Neo nodded with a pale face. He was breathing heavily and drenched in sweat. Creating an aura blade exhausted him greatly. I should be able to create water if I train now, he thought. The trio reached the mission hall with the class. It was a huge pavilion with countless students going to and fro. That's the mission board. You can see the available missions on it. Anna pointed at giant hologram floating in the air. There were thousands of missions on it. Dozens of missions were being taken every second and new missions continued to replace them. For the first semester, you are only allowed to take missions inside the academy. The missions are divided into FA ranks on the basis of difficulties. Anna explained the reward system. A rank mission equals 6 credits. B rank mission equals 5 credits. C rank mission equals 4 credits. D rank mission equals 3 credits. E rank mission equals 2 credits. F rank mission equals 1 credits. The credits were awarded by the Academy on the mission's successful completion. That was not all. The person who posted the mission would give separate rewards. C rank and higher missions can be accepted by teams with 5 members minimum. The team leader will get twice the credits for mission completion. You all have a week to headhunt your team members. The team members can't be changed until the next semester. Think carefully before choosing your teams. Anna suddenly stopped speaking. She looked the students in their eyes. Her gaze made them shiver. Forcing others to join your team or prohibiting others from joining a team is strictly banned. If it's revealed anyone blackmailed the students, be ready for severe punishments. Some of the students did not understand why Anna was confident in catching the rule breakers. Their friends explained the reason to them. After knowing the academy principal could observe the academy grounds at all times, they trembled with disgust and fear. Speak up if anyone has a doubt, Anna said. Lucas raised his hands. What about S-rank missions and higher? Anna stared at him silently. We can't choose them. He asked again. You can choose an S-rank mission if 3 of your team members are top 100 students. But I won't recommend them due to their difficulty. What about SS rank and SSS rank missions? Lucas ignored Anna's warning and asked. You need to meet special requirements for them. The requirements will be released after you complete an S-rank mission. Neo, on the side, frowned. He wondered if he should reveal the requirements to Arthur and Felix. Arthur might not be hit by the requirement, but Felix would. Don't take too many credits from others, Neo said to the two. In the end, he decided to give an ambiguous advice. Arthur didn't understand the underlying meaning behind Neo's words. Felix, on the other hand, had an epiphany. Smart bastard, Neo thought as he stared at Felix. How did you know? Felix asked. Know what? I don't understand what you mean by that. Felix didn't ask further questions when Neo made it clear he wouldn't reveal the source of information. The class was dismissed for the day. Let's go and search for 2 other teammates, Felix said to Neo and Arthur. She expected it to be a given for them to form a team. But. Sorry, I don't want to be in Neo's team. Wait, why? Isn't it good for friends to stick together? Neo's rank might be low, but. That's not the reason. Arthur faced Neo with an apologetic face. Sorry, Neo. I want to be the ruler. It's the reason I came to the academy. I've confirmed it from student council president that I can buy the first rank with credits. It costs an exorbitant price. I need to be the team leader if I want to earn enough credits for the first rank. I see. Guess we have to form different teams. Neo made it clear he had no intentions of giving up the position of team leader. Just like Arthur, he had his own reasons. Felix, whose team will you join? Neo questioned. Felix frowned. She tried to soothe them, but Neo and Arthur were adamant about forming different teams. Damn it. Arthur is the obvious choice, but I don't want to take sides. The moment I choose one of them, I will fall out of the favor with the other one. Felix tried to think of a solution. She opened her mouth. Then I will form my own too. What? Arthur's reaction was just as Felix predicted. Felix sneaked a peek at Neo to look at his expression. This guy is always maintaining that cold face. I can't even understand what goes through his mind, Felix thought. It was a risky move to say she would form a team. Despite the risk of actually being left alone, she decided to move forward with the plan. If you two think it's better to be alone, I should leave too. What are you saying, Felix? You are weak. Arthur stopped speaking before he said anything inappropriate. However, it was clear what he was about to say. I'm weak. Felix smiled bitterly. Yeah, that's right. I need to be protected by you too. But that's why I'm trying to leave. You won't be able to give your best on missions if you have to worry about protecting me. That's not true. Don't lie. Both of us know you were about to call me weak, and there is no need to feel bad, because it's the truth. Arthur bit his lips. He turned to Neo for help. Stop being annoying, Felix. Arthur's eyes shot wide open when he heard. Neo. Neo continued to speak before Arthur could stop him.